Two things. Rocket scientists, like, supposed to be like, what are you, rocket scientist? Like, it's the biggest, thing ever. I'll tell you what, rocket science seems pretty primitive to me if there's bending of space times and things going on, like some of these UFOs that got captured with my camera. Since I discovered the Mandela effect, my eyes just went like, pew, you know. Um, and then also educated. It's like, man, it just means conditioned now. Not all the way, but when it comes to like understanding where we are, like in context, I think there's a lot of undoing that needs to happen. And one of the big motivations for me doing this channel this is the seriousnesses of the feels right now, is because I feel, no, for real, I feel, what's the word? Not sad, but empathy for people who are deceived. And I'm not saying I'm like ultra woke or anything. I mean, I don't think I got my own crap like everybody, but trying here like everybody else. Well, not everybody else. Maybe the people listening to this because it's such an avant-garde subject. I'll get to the change. Don't worry with the song, but I'm really wanting to focus less on these changes. I probably will still do a change in each of these videos, but I want to just address other things because there's a larger picture going on here, and obviously we all know this. I've been saying it, but so what I was getting at with that empathy thing is like, it's just kind of a shame that, number one, the whole standard model of physics that we've been given, not only physics, but like origin, and, priority of consciousness and value and morality, everything's been twisted. So here's a wonderful, this is what I was so excited about when I first found it, the Mandela effect. I was like, this is fantastic, in my jovial, what's that word? I can't think of that word right now. Where you don't. Oh my God. Not nuance, naive. My naivety. Thinking like, well, this will be great. People will start to realize that this place is not material, or something along those lines. Like the scientism is a religion, which involves. And it's not just the Big Bang, and it's not just that this is one of the biggest things for me, that consciousness is just a side effect of neurons firing in your brain. Ugh. Good Lord. I think I've said this before, but you can't just say that the moon inside of a telescope only exists inside the telescope. The telescope is a tool to get there. Medical professionals right now would say that people who are having out-of-body experiences and there's correlating parallels are they just don't address it, and then they do this whole like arrogant thing with the evidence is there. I'm not gonna get all negative right now, but I'm feeling a little bit like right now because I don't really see this as being a friendly. Well, okay, I'm not gonna go ahead and say that. I'm trying to just pick apart the data with you guys and girls, and like for instance, it's not as easy as jumping into another parallel dimension and leaving the other one behind, in my opinion, because when I have all these songs I'm finding, I got way more. I always say that, but really I don't want to be just one of these mechanistic, here's one, no context, because that's the whole thing. I'm starting to think now, if it is not like it, for a long time I was like, I don't think the enemy, or I don't even want to give them that by calling them enemy, but those that are trying to oppress, who I'm not worried about, by the way, like they're, if it is coming from them, it's this time warp of people's mind and attention, not only to because of the specific changes. Let's just say that they did change this stuff, and they're just like pick. It's like, man, one thing I gotta we have to remember is that there's always a high possibility. No, it's not. It's to me, it's probably the most legit. The most legit is that there's like some. We have this like overarching gray cloud of our understanding of this other perspective to our reality. If you aren't an atheist, like we're kind of tried to be conditioned to be in school, and I'm not kind of like trying to classify people, but I'm saying when I say atheist or not atheist, I'm not talking about specifically the stereotypical impression of the God of the Old Testament, but I want to amend actually something that I have been saying based off of new impressions, I guess. And all right, so like I found a verse that was saying how terrible Jehovah was, only in the King James. And the rest of them it said awesome instead of terrible. I'll do a video about that maybe next. And I was like, man, how do we know how long this has been going on? Or if, well, it's a really advanced technology if it is coming from like the New World Order clan. I heard some residue recently for Ku Klux Klan, by the way. I actually wasn't sure about that one. I don't know. I just don't think there's like anything to do with other dimensions except for the spirit world, which they're trying to tear the veil to. And I think there's like an exchange going on, and resources somehow, and maybe they're getting our loosh, our life force, by just having us do their work or something. Like we're kind of slaves, and but it's just really to play devil's advocate, or not devil's advocate, like benevolence team advocate. There are so many like these, everybody says when it comes to the deception that like they have to tell you what's going on, like it's part of the cosmic law or whatever. And by the way, to me, aliens and spirits are all the same thing. Jinn, I mean, maybe there's different like Star Wars breeds, but like it's all the same thing. Mythology, all this stuff. But the thing is like trying to not become so specifically. I spent some time trying to like compare the mythological characters, like who is this, and then like it's like speculation, obviously Olympics, because they don't know what the hell they're talking about. I mean, without context, it's like they're just looking at a few trees of a forest, whatever. And it seems like the oppressor, obviously, it's in their favor to not let us in on what's going on. I'll tell you what, like, it's seemed like there has, I don't know, something opened up wide. I still haven't talked about it publicly for my shadow banned ass channel. I mean, okay, look, like, I am thinking out loud right now. Like, this is super suppressed for sure. And there's total gaslighting and gatekeeping with this, like, disinfo, whether intentional or not, all over the place. Not only is it not talked about, but, what's funny is that a false memory was enough to convict somebody of rape. One. Like, there's a psychology book I was reading, and I just randomly opened it up to a false memory thing. It was talking about how sometimes people might make them up in terms of, like, a past trauma. And one person was enough to send a guy away. And I'm not commenting on the Me Too or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, it's funny because now that there's collective false memories, and there's evidence, like crazy evidence. Oh my gosh, screensaver. I guess I'm still recording. There's major evidence, and that's one of the other things about this is that it's not perfect. It's really not perfect. It's getting sloppy. I mean, catching new ones all the time, and It's like, she talks to angels. It's angel now. And like, but that's the okay. I was just gonna say that, like, the lyrics didn't change anywhere. But then another question I have is like, okay, I look at the genealogy change, and thank God people agreed with me. Well, not really, I guess, like, because there's other ones that I'm like dead fast about, and then people interpret it as like, you hear what you want. I'm like, oh my God. Um, EA, right? Although that could be just gaslighting towards some other just false thing, which is like, EA genetically manipulated you. I was watching because it was Rod Sterling for me. But anyway, I was watching, I'll call him Sterling. I was watching a Rod Sterling 1970s documentary with Eric Von Daniken. I think that's how you say his name. He's one of the guys, like, Sitchin for the ancient astronaut theory. It's like 1971 or something, and they're making all these claims about incorrect things that are, and who am I to say that? Well, there's like actual, okay, I guess I'm also bent because I've worked in Hollywood. I currently still do. Although it's been very slow since the Mandela effect. Ironically, it's like the Hive decided to just peace out on me, which is good. I don't want to be working for them anyway. But this guy I worked with was, a producer, and he was like, "Oh yeah, people make up all these archaeological claims all the time." I had to this guy actually had to write historical fiction and then portray it as nonfiction. I feel like in TV they lie to you through the television, and they tell you the truth through film, but through film it's disguised as fiction. I just recently watched Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Well, I saw 1 as well, but 2 has really been sticking with me. I was like not into these movies for a long time. I was just assumed everything that was mainstream was like Transformers, even though I'm technically a filmmaker. So I'm like an artsy kind of one. I like artsy films, whatever. And I didn't realize how deeply embedded these mythological stories are in these things. And the idea, like, what's that guy's name? No. Chris Pratt's celestial father. And this will bring me back to the other thing I was talking about, the Old Testament, God, and our impression of what God is. It doesn't matter like when they change. Well, let me just finish this. So, there's a lot of parallels there to like a Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader thing. Also, I'm like, thinking here for a long time. I still do think this. If you, well, I can only base off my experiences. And okay, wrap up the movie real quick, dude. Stay on point. So when he was trying to his father was in the planet Ego, which is funny, and he wanted to like extend himself, right? Throughout the cosmos, whatever. Like, so there'll be like so many me's, kind of like that Rick and Morty episode with Unity. Everybody's a big hive. It looked like the flood. See, okay, so like my thing is I'm reverence for life. It's this really potent set of values by, oh my God, I'm blanking on his name right now. I'll come back to that. I took a whole course on this dude. And again, not to like hate fully on education. There's so much to gain from education, but it's like what they do is they tell you 100 truths to make you believe one lie, but it's an important lie, and it's like the one that are like, well, there's no purpose. You make it, and maybe there's a way to vibrate out the door of this possibly a reincarnation soul matrix trap or something. So now my thing with the Bible is like, there's so many changes in the Bible. It's redonkulous. It is absolutely bonkers. Because I can check the verses to see all the versions, on one page. And it's just like ridiculous how the King James, I went on a session, must have screenshot like 100 verses, And I'm like, okay, so for a long time I've been thinking like, there's obviously a thread here where the darker things are the things that are subject to change. Like for instance, Led Zeppelin over although I got a lot of those, over, I don't know, Alice Cooper. You know, even though Alice Cooper was like super dark, he's like really into Christ now. And, you know, so we're speculating here, obviously. But I've got 3 songs that have the word sin in it now too. And it's like there's a lot of spiritual implications with these things. And I don't know why the darkness would feel the need to even come close to targeting those things. Although at the same time, I guess that's the whole deal. Is that this like New World Order league of nerds. What's funny is that they're peddling solipsism as well as materialist and atheism, but they're theists. But they're into like Lucifer or whoever you want to call this lead archon. So the thing is that I don't know. I mean, it does clearly say like over and over again in the New Testament, Christ is like, yo, guys and girls, you're all worshiping the devil. And people are like, is it Baal or is it, you know, and I'm like, it's Jehovah. But at the same time, I'm like I can't, this thing is changing so much now, I can't premise that at all. So back to like why I care about the Christ. It's like I was going through some serious paranormal stuff and I couldn't shake it after this happened, after I discovered this beginning of 2017. And I had always heard, you know, like the name of Christ actually made these things go away. Even alien abductions, which are probably jinn or, you know, demons. I think we live in an electric universe. Soft disclosure, I also had a plasma entity like outside my window for a while. Maybe I'll put it out. I don't know. But it's crazy. This thing was hovering there for like 5 minutes. I have it on video, and I've stabilized the hell out of it. And this thing has shape shifting. It's insane. Like when you see it, you're not even like I'm not doing it justice at all. And so anyway, why am I talking about the Christ? Because it's like there's all of these like misrouted intentional, like there's, hey, you should look over here, yeah, look over there. It's like, yeah, well, you're like, oh, I have a problem right now, and they're like, here's a solution. Little do you know they gave you the problem. So I mean, I do think this could be magic now, or sorcery, or whatever you want to call it, technology that we don't understand yet. I'm also the guy who thinks that this reality got hijacked by like the lead archon or whatever you want to call these things that are like, you know, the prison guards. I don't know. I mean, why do I think this is a prison? Well, number one, we can't fly. I'm just kidding, but I would love to fly. Also, well, this is pretty in depth. Suffering can get pretty gnarly, and I'm very fortunate, but it's just this weird game, man, where you just wake up when you're 5 or something. I remember getting my diapers changed, but you're just like, how did I get here? Oh my god, you know, I don't know if we're first round souls or if we are reincarnated, but there's so much. Why is there so much effort? You know, I really think there's like a legalistic battle going on or something for our souls, and I don't know what this resource is. And I know for a fact that I'm speaking super simplistically in terms of like when I actually. Here's the thing. This is kind of the whole point of this like little spurt of stuff I'm going to talk about. There's a specific thing going on, and without, you know, like there's a specific way to make a basketball hoop, okay? And until you know how to make a basketball hoop, everything else is going to not be a basketball hoop that you try to make. Like, I don't know. And it's funny, they probably laugh at us or whatever. I love the South Park episode where Earth's a reality television show, and then we find out, and then they cancel us. But anyway, alright, so here's the change. Joy Division. Love will tear us apart. you could check this out on your own. This is also another reason why. So you hear it, love will tear it apart again. Maybe you don't. I don't know. I don't want to get a copyright, but it's clearly it. I mean, what's interesting is that it seems like. No, my whole thing about Revelations now is that it seems to me like the big control game, the final move of checkmate. Um, Also Revelation. I don't think that like there's so much going on in the Old Testament. There's so many like, and also mixed that it's not just. I'm not just based on the Bible. Like the mythological stories, the Egyptians. Well, not specifically them, but like the Babylonians, Sumerian, Greeks. There's all these encounters with these deities, aliens, and there's way more too. Mayans, Zulu, Aztecs. So many different interpretations, so many different personalities. Monotheism is crazy. I mean, I've always been like, there's one, and now I'm like, well, here's the things I do know. I think Christ is cool, because of his character, and also I've seen it work, and he gave life advice, and I think it might be the Matrix exit key to listen, right, and like try to do. I don't know. I know what the Holy Spirit feels like. It feels like electricity, and I do believe we're living in an electric universe to an extent. And I actually am just grazing the surface of that set of research. The Thunderbolts project seems to be being very professional, way unlike the Mandela effect community and the flat Earth community. I mean, the Mandela effect is 100% real, but what they're saying the cause is complete horseshit. Similarly to the flat Earth, there are some interesting things about that, such as the curve model just not working. I've seen it with my own eyes. You should not be able to see any of the buildings over the Lake Michigan from Indiana. So that could mean they're bigger. There could be another continent, like Admiral Byrd said, although he was Navy. So it's like, how do we know? But then you've got the whole Black Sun, Hollow Earth cult followers, right? And like, then you've got these jinn that come from the center of the Naga, But then you also have these this wave of Gnosticism that's coming in, and it's like there's all these new trends, and I don't mean to be offensive. But it's sort of like I'm just being no, I really am not being offensive. I'm like I'm in favor of humanity and everybody's individual and sovereign freedom. I have no other intention, really. In case you were wondering. All right. Well, so love will tear it apart again. Here's the interesting thing about this. The a cappella version still says us, and also the live also says us still, like it used to be. This one, it seems to only be isolated to the studio version, and it's every time they say love will tear it apart. And I know it was. I remember I've heard the song 1,000 times. All these changes yell to me, just so you know. Even if I'm like distracted, because here's actually the Tessa. I forget the name of it, but there's this theory about the Beatles coming from Tessa something. It's like an established intentional covert op to. I'm totally spitting in the dark here, but the idea that there was let's just take the Beatles out of it, an intentional plan similarly to like the one about the tuning scale, the 440 hertz versus 432 hertz, which is really totally true. I mean, it's crazy. When I tune my guitar to 432, it just feels way better. The hedgehog that we live with loves it. Anyway, you know what? Now you know I have a hedgehog. They're also illegal in California, so there's that. Basically, I don't even remember what I was saying at this point. Oh my gosh. And you know what? That's totally cool. Whatever. Oh, I'm going to go on to something else. uh, yeah, it's just interesting that like love will tear us apart. Love will tear it apart. I mean, love backwards is evil, you know. But also disguised as love. And interesting. I'm not saying. Here's the thing about Revelation. I'm not saying it's not true. It has had a lot. I'm saying it's a game plan, and not from our benevolent creator. I think this reality got hijacked for real, and not only through the consciousness, but well, it's getting hide. If this is coming from them, stupid bastards. It's like so lame. You know what I mean? It's like, well, okay, you guys are so bored. This is what happens when you live for the material. You know, the little things aren't so little. All these. This is the whole key, I believe. Rediscovering the heart. I'm putting in this I paused there for effect. For real, the heart. Take that as whatever you mean. You know what I mean. I am really tired. I'm going to sign off now. Thank you for listening. I hope you have a fantastic day. I'm literally falling asleep right now. I've been trying to get into affiliate marketing all night. It's so dumb. But here we go anyway. Okay. Peace.